sits the imperial state crown and is draped in the royal standard. Her Majesty will lie in state for 24 hours a day until her funeral on Monday. Already, lines of several kilometers long have formed as mourners await the opportunity to pay their last respects to their Queen of 70 years. Monty Francis has the latest.
As the doors opened, the first of the mourners filed into Westminster Hall to pay their respects to Elizabeth II. They had waited hours for a chance to bow, or curtsy, or to silently reflect. As the late monarch lies in state, her coffin guarded at every corner, 24 hours a day, by soldiers serving the royal household.
She was a beautiful inspiration and such a moving energy in there.
Closure. Our Queen is being laid to rest. She's at peace.
Among those paying their respects, politicians and dignitaries, including Prime Minister Liz Truss. But most of them everyday Brits, mourning their beloved Queen.
It was very hard. Just seeing a coffin and not a queen, not our Queen, seeing her like that was hard.
We each of us had the time to stand in front of the coffin on our own, not with crowds thick behind us, just on our own for a moment of thought. It was very moving.
Outside, the line stretches beyond sight along the Thames for several kilometers as people spend hours and hours waiting to enter the hall. At least 1,000 volunteers have been enlisted to help manage the crowds, which are expected to number in the hundreds of thousands in the coming days. The late monarch will lie in state until her funeral on Monday at nearby Westminster Abbey. Until then, the doors of the hall will remain open 24 hours a day.
Our London correspondent, Benedict Pavio, has more on what to expect in the days to come.
We're expecting over 500 VIPs. It goes from President Biden, the US president, to the French president, Emmanuel Macron, to the Emperor of Japan, to Jacinda Ardern, to European royalty, princes, princesses, heads of government. And that is even bigger, for example, than was saying the head of transport here in London today, than, for example, for the London 2012 Olympics. So a lot at play. Of course, that respect for the monarch and also really welcoming King Charles as he conducts himself in his new duties, and I'm sure that public-private grief, what tension there must be inside as we've seen him travel the nations across the United Kingdom. He will be going to Wales the day after tomorrow. He's already, as we know, been in Scotland. He's been in Northern Ireland. So these are historical moments, and it's interesting to see how many heads of government and heads of state want to come to the United Kingdom, come to London to take part in that state funeral that will be extraordinary to watch, and another piece of history as we close the Elizabethan era and now have a Caroline one, Charles III, very clearly on the throne.
Ukrainians are celebrating recent battlefield victories as the army's counteroffensive against Russian troops has seen it reclaim some 8,500 square kilometers in the Kharkiv region. On Wednesday, President Volodymyr Zelensky promised victory while visiting one of the recently liberated cities, Izium, a key logistics hub. Zelensky thanked the troops and oversaw a flag-raising ceremony while also continuing to appeal to the West for more arms. France 24's Gulliver Cragg has more.
Izium is now considered to be absolutely under Ukrainian control, and that Ukrainian control over it has been, as they say, consolidated. Zelensky took part in a flag-raising ceremony in Izium. Clearly, the fact that they think it's safe for the president to go there means something in terms of how sure they are that they have now chased the Russians out of the place. It's also, of course, significant as it is a continuation of a series of trips that President Zelensky has made to frontline areas, including to Lysychansk shortly before it fell actually into Russian hands, which shows his bravery, which I think incarnates the bravery that all Ukrainians feel that their country has been showing since this invasion started on the 24th of February. And while you may get criticism of President Zelensky, many aspects of his presidency and some things that he says from many Ukrainians, very, very few people would fail to salute the courage that he has shown and the kind of leadership that he has shown in making these symbolic gestures since the beginning of the invasion.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit Uzbekistan, where he will attend a meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization starting this Thursday. Also attending, Chinese President Xi Jinping. All eyes will be on the two leaders as they discuss Sino-Russian relations and the war in Ukraine. Vedika Bahel has more details.
Arriving in Samarkand Airport, it's the Chinese president's first foreign trip in over 2 years. Uzbekistan's third largest city is hosting the two-day Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. And President Xi Jinping will meet his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, for the first time since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's expected that the partnership between the two nations, as well as the war, will be high on the agenda. Since the start of the conflict, Beijing has adopted an ambiguous position towards Moscow and even abstained from a United Nations General Assembly vote towards a resolution, where its ambassador threw veiled shots at Ukraine's Western allies.
The final settlement of the Ukraine crisis requires abandoning the Cold War mentality. We've always believed that all countries have sovereignty and their territorial integrity must be respected.
In fear of Western sanctions, China has been wary of delivering weapons to its ally, nor has it applied international sanctions against Russia itself. But as trade between the two nations continues to soar, and Beijing's own relations with the West have soured due to tensions surrounding Taiwan, the Chinese leader has been making more overt advances about his support for the Kremlin.
China wishes to work with Russia so both countries mutually safeguard their essential sovereignty and security interests.
During their meeting, the pair are expected to discuss the future of their strategic partnership. But the friendship could hit a snag, as China's multi-billion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative in Central Asia sparked some unease in Russia, who see the region as its sphere of influence.
Fresh clashes have erupted between Armenia and Azerbaijan, with each side accusing the other of instigating cross-border shelling. The renewed fighting comes a day after hostilities reignited between the two longtime foes. Now, an Armenian security official says both countries have agreed to a